this movie exists. I have to say, these are pretty goddamn awesome opening credits. It's even got Karen O and Trent Reznor doing a fucking Led Zeppelin cover. But it also takes forever, so I'm sinning the self-indulgence, even while I'm bobbing my head to the sick beat.
What is this? Media event of the year?
Let's just go ahead and establish that preposterously, all characters speak English in a predominantly non-English speaking country during an American film. Everyone's belief properly suspended? Moving on.
When you call a guy a criminal and have nothing to back it up.
But if you're going to say these things...
Michael Bloomquist likes...
Damn movie, if you're going to give us news position, at least focus on one broadcast so we can figure out what the hell's going on.
16 counts of aggravated.
Can I get that sandwich then?
Granted, I don't know what cafes are like in Stockholm, but I have my doubts that people would come and grab coffee and pastries at a place that has TVs with jacked up volume on at all times. Oh cool, Mikkel works at that short-lived 90s Fox show that starred Lance Henriksen.
I'll call Gregor, tell him I'm not coming home.
Poor Gregor. The book at least gives a little background on the fact that he doesn't really care about Mikkel and Erica sleeping together. But in the movie, he just comes across as pure cuck.
I need to know if there's anything about him I might find unsavory.
But why? Frodo wants to hire Mikkel because of his great investigative work, and given the nature of the hush-hush operation, Mikkel's private life shouldn't even factor into this. I think Frodo's really just waiting for the part about the cunnilingus.
Sometimes he performs cunnilingus. Not often enough, in my opinion.
They never really actually explicate who they're talking about during the scene, but based on this exchange, you can be damn sure it's not DJ Khaled. For someone who made it very clear earlier she only does what she's asked to do, Lizbeth sure is doing a lot of things she wasn't asked to do.
Are you giving up?
Stepping aside.
This makes me sick.
What makes me sick is the fact that the movie chose to include all this minutia about the fall of Blomqvist's career. In addition to Lizbeth's horrible background and subsequent revenge, the mystery not mystery of Harriet's disappearance, the Nazi Martin's killing boner, Lizbeth's brilliance at hacking but social anxieties, the developing relationship between her and Mikkel, and let's see, what am I leaving out? Oh yeah, fucking Gregor! Okay. Movie spent the last 30 seconds of silent driving and Mikkel's stunned expression to build us up to Vanger's opulence. And sure, it's a nice big house and all, but it ain't the fucking Taj Mahal.
So, what do you know about me?
I'd remove all the sins for this movie if Mikkel asked him if Kevin Spacey previously played this role.
Would you like to sit? I can possibly clear a place if necessary.
Man, you'd think with a strong, beautiful central character that was also a hacker, this movie would avoid the stereotype of other hackers being fat, lazy dudes, but you'd be wrong.
This is Harriet.
It may be a picture from the past, but this scene is total fjord shadowing. Swede's position.
Someone in the family murdered Harriet, and for the past 40 years has been trying to drive me insane.
So is there something about the 40th anniversary that caused Henrik to call Mikkel? I know it was convenient that he just had all that legal business and was available, but there have to be hundreds of people in Sweden or elsewhere that could do an excellent job just as discreetly. Some even make careers out of it, like the person you hired to fucking investigate Mikkel. Also, since we eventually find out Harriet has been sending the gifts for the past 40 years, you have to wonder, why is she doing that? It's definitely not to ease Henrik's mind, considering he definitely thinks she's dead.
She wasn't there the next morning, or the next 40 years.
This is a compelling mystery, no doubt, and it's got a pretty interesting resolution, but it also takes up an absurd amount of time in a story that's ultimately about Mikkel's redemption and Lizbeth's badassery. I mean, this is over 2.5 hours. That's Transformers length.
I need you here, not the North Pole. Mikkel, you know what this is going to look like.
Look, kudos to Robin Wright and a few others for giving the Swedish accent the old college try, but the ultimate lack of authenticity is one of the many reasons that most people prefer to watch the original Swedish version to this one. They should have just gone the Star Wars route and made everyone speak British. Hey, f*** you, buddy, that was Kurt Vonnegut's last book.
Quickly losing track of who's who here.
Mikkel speaks for the audience, and movie immediately raises 2 giant middle fingers in response. Hot researching action. No one will be seated during the scenes of Mikkel highlighting police reports. Also, is he seriously highlighting everything on the page except no sign of break-in? Seems like that's a pretty important point, or at least as highlighter-worthy as the rest of the page is. Why are there so many busted-ass sheds on this island? Vanger and his family are the only inhabitants, and he has all the money in the world, so why haven't they cleaned this shit up?
The fact that I never found a body was not surprising. You can't dig up an entire island.
But can't you? I mean, if you're doing a full investigation and you think there's been foul play, wouldn't you do whatever you needed to do to solve the case? The island's not that big.
But neither could I find a motive. Henrik told me, and many others, he could easily see her running the company one day.
That sounds exactly like a motive.
Would you prefer institutionalization?
Skip? No, seriously, can we skip over all of this? I guess it's important to the story, but Jesus, just let us skip. Jeez, what a creepy smile. If I met this dude, I'd immediately be on my Skarsgård.
I'm afraid I'm a little out of shape.
This is clearly the in-between Bond films Daniel Craig.
What a place. Look at that view.
I mean, we've been shown almost the entirety of the island already, and besides the houses, there ain't much to look at, especially in the dead of f***ing night.
That's why she'll never marry me.
That's one reason.
I guess proud infidelity is a thing in Sweden?
I thought I'd come over and say hello. I'm Cecilia.
Oh, yes.
Meekle's been studying the crap out of this family, putting up photographs and on his crazy homeland map of suspects, and even if he didn't have a recent photo, how would he not recognize someone vital to the case and one that lives on the island?
I wonder sometimes who's crazier, my Nazi father or my obsessed uncle.
The Nazi. It's definitely the Nazi.
I'm writing a biography of your uncle, Henry. That's why I'm here.
Damn, flying all the way to London to drop in unannounced to Anita's place of business, only to broadside her with this, is like the definition of gotcha journalism.
Elizabeth, come on in.
I know I'm skipping a decent chunk of this movie because, while it's probably an essential plot point to the overall narrative, unlike the fucking Harriet bullshit, the movie lingers a little too much on the stuff between Lisbeth and Bierman, especially before Lisbeth gets her revenge. And even though that revenge is fucking sweet, it's a rough go getting there, at least for a movie. Anyway, just trust me that I sat through a lot of unnecessary ickiness, and we're just gonna give it 5 sins and move on. Man, I'm glad I got to see yet another scene of Meekle researching some shit about Harriet, looking confused, and then putting that information down and moving on to something else. Did I actually get the super extended director's cut of this movie? No? God damn it.
Is it any warmer inside?
Claire Underwood's in cars getting colder.
Without their money, we will be out of business in 3.
You don't know this family like I do. They're crazy.
First off, welcome to the J story of this movie, which involves the financial independence of the magazine that Meekle most recently worked for. You know what, David? Not everything from the book needed to go into the movie. Also, the is Meekle talking about? Sure, there's some awful people tangentially in this family, but so far as he knows, the business is run by Martin and Henrik, who are trustworthy, and the company's been enormously successful, so it makes all the sense in the world to partner with them.
I'm leaving this godforsaken island in the morning.
Just because he played Bond doesn't mean you have to have a beautiful woman disrobing in silhouette movie.
Are you referring to Mr. Wennerström?
I'm referring to anyone who tries to sue his enemies into submission.
Ah, Wennerström. In a movie where every character is sadistic, unlikable, or disagreeable at best, at least we can take solace in the fact that everyone hates you. Who sends this sensitive, boneheaded sentiment as a fucking email? And even if he needed to send it, look how many assholes he copied! Movie crime solver discovers important clue from accidentally dropping papers on the floor cliché. Despite someone taking the time to zoom in on the picture of the girl in the window in the original investigation, no one mentions this? What determines the position of Meekle's glasses when he's looking at something close up? Sometimes they're hanging from his chin haphazardly, or he'll just take them off completely. And sometimes they're up on his head. Is the next stop to turn them around on the back of his head like Guy Fieri?
I feel a bit badly how we left it last time.
Me too.
Yeah, and yes, she does even more satisfying to this asshole, but this is a family channel, and we can only show you so much. But yeah! One problem in adapting mystery novels to film is that the investigative scenes are not always the most cinematic. The girl with the dragon tattoo is not the exception.
I am insane.
Jesus, Lisbeth, Tyler Durden much?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi, daughter of our protagonist that totally doesn't need to exist and that we'll only see for about 5 seconds in this movie.
I'm not writing an article about Catholics.
The Bible quotes by your dad.
Is Meekle actually a good investigator, or does he just get super lucky? Like Harry Potter lucky? Based on what's been presented so far, I lean toward the latter. So is movie telling me that Swedish phone numbers and Bible chapter and verse code breakers are the exact same length? Because I think I'm calling bullshit on at least one of those things.
May I have one of those? You want a sandwich?
Small scotch.
You see, Frodo, when you mess around with the pronoun game, you could end up getting a liverwurst sandwich instead of that sweet, peaty goodness.
She's a ward of the state. She's had a rough life.
This comes after Meekle has prodded and threatened Dragon during this conversation. So, couldn't he have just told him he needed a fucking research assistant?
I'm going to tell you a story, and if it entertains you, maybe you'll decide to help me research further.
This is a bold strategy, because the Harriet story is hugely unentertaining.
Elizabeth, I want you to help me catch a killer of women.
Movie takes an hour and 19 minutes to properly girl with a dragon tattoo.
I've got absolutely no idea who the rest of these people are.
And I also have no idea what happened to whatever accent I was using at the beginning of this movie. So let's just pretend I'm British and go with that, yeah?
Why would a young lady like you want to know about such an awful murder?
It interests me.
Wait, another murder mystery plot inside a murder mystery plot? That's like 16 murder mystery plots.
You moved on to a neighbor and a vagrant. Once you get to strangers, it's only a matter of time before you get the gypsies, and you know you're never going to solve it.
All those unsolved murders in Sweden because no one can get the gypsies to talk. F***ing gypsies.
He needs surgery, but there's no DNA in place. So it's up to the family to decide, should the occasion arise, whether to resuscitate or not.
I don't know how medicine works in Sweden, but if there's no DNR in place, doesn't that mean the doctors, have to R?
You must stay. You're the last chance Henrik has at some kind of resolution.
Granted, this paints Martin as a good guy and not a murderer, but since we eventually find out he is, this scene makes zero sense. Why would Martin want Mikkel, who he knows is a good investigator, to continue to dig up history that could eventually expose him?
The killer uncaged the animals, smashed the aquariums. There was a parakeet inside her.
Oddly enough, she actually died of the bird flu.
Harriet's name isn't.
And what?
Jewish.
Damn, can anyone speak in full sentences in this movie? It's always a fragment of a thought, prompting the other person to ask what the end part of the sentence is. You know what that makes me?
What?
Angry!
I can't give you any of this stuff without authorization from Mr. Armansky.
So call him.
What the f was the point of that scene? It's not like dude is intimidated, nor is Lisbeth. It's like this that bloats the runtime of an otherwise decent movie, and I'm perplexed why David Fincher didn't edit his like he normally does. Wait, Fight Club was over 2.5 hours also? And Gone Girl? And Zodiac was nearly 3 hours? What the f, Fincher? What the hell? He had to go into the whole shower? They couldn't just wash his face over the sink?
And they're sterilized that, right?
You're going to go to an actual doctor to have that looked at, right?
I like working with you.
I like working with you too.
Yeah, the research is going really great.
I was wondering if you could do that.
I don't speak to him, as you know. Are you afraid to be in the same room with him?
Man, this island is 80% made up of people who don't speak to each other. I know it was played for a joke earlier, but seriously, if it's this bad, why don't at least some of them move?
Your interest is in my more candid photographic work.
If you mean non-racist piece of shit photos, then yes. If Lisbeth has a photographic memory, why'd she have to lay out all the pictures of the girls on the map? Is it really for her or for us? Oh man, turns out Mikkel was looking for Pennywise this whole time. Guess he's gonna be hightailing it to the old well house. Okay, the movie's established that Gottfried killed and tortured these girls based on passages from the Old Testament, and that he was training Martin to do the same. And the question marks here denote that someone other than Gottfried, Martin, committed the last known one. But when Martin tells Mikkel all the he's done since, there's no mention of religious motivation at all. If he carried on his father's work with poor Lena Anderson, why'd he stop Leviticusing? I'm just saying, you've got a clear motivation, movie. Stick with that. I know this is an island and everything, but this is a very expensive house. You're telling me Martin didn't have any home security alarms? Or even locks on the door?
Come on in. I'll make you a drink.
This movie is so gross that I can't even make a Bill Cosby joke here in good conscience. Although I guess I should never make a Bill Cosby joke. So for making me have that responsible yet crushing realization, this movie gets a sin.
Hello, Martin.
So in 40 years, not one person that investigated this case figured out that Martin was in this photograph? The balloon partially hides his face, but with all the questioning on this case over the years, someone should have uncovered this piece of info before now.
No what's harder than shooting someone. Just missing him.
God damn it, wait until you're down in the torture chamber before you start your villainy exposition, Martin. This ain't your first rodeo. Act like you've been here before. Whoa, that's a massively inefficient way to knock your subject out. What happened to good old-fashioned chloroform? It worked just fine for the Horde. Also, he could have at least had Mikkel set the drink down, or taken it from him before setting off the gas, just giving himself unnecessary cleanup in his torture porn ventures.
Spill your drink.
How the f*** is Mikkel supposed to drink that? Even homicidal lunatics don't waste good scotch.
Copy on my laptop, and there's another copy
on
a secure website.
your website. That's a lie.
What gives Martin this much confidence? I know he's doing his creepy, omniscient villain act here, and there's a good chance that Mikkel is lying, but why would he even leave that to chance? Yeah, pretty crazy that you both came to the same realization almost at the exact same time. That would have been so disappointing for both of you when you're about to drop this knowledge bomb and both of you know what the other is going to say.
So, what do you want to know? You're a journalist, ask me questions.
And there's no way you would make it out of this situation alive, so I'm going to give you this honest and forthcoming interview about crimes that I've covered up for decades. Also, is it just me, or is this scene a little too Casino Royale? Although, something's missing. Oh yeah, we need Mikkel to get naked.
You knew something was wrong, but you came back into the house.
But Mikkel had no clue that Martin knew anything was amiss. Sure, it would have been better for him to walk away, but he was potentially going to get even more information. And really nothing would have been different if Martin hadn't noticed the knife missing. I realize this is just a crazy old loot doing some amateur philosophy, but he makes it sound like what Mikkel did was entirely stupid, and it wasn't, damn it.
When I see the hope draining from their face like it is from yours right now, I can feel myself getting hard.
Part of me wants to take a sin off for Stellan Skarsgård delivering that line so convincingly, and part of me wants to stick Q-tips so far down my eardrums that I will never have to hear dialogue like that uttered again. So...
We're not that different, you and I.
We're not that different, you and I, cliche.
Never had a man in here before.
That's racist. You know I'm going to sin the fact that Martin left this unlocked, and that Lisbeth knew exactly where the hidden torture chamber is, and came prepared to take out the dude that's currently torturing. But honestly, I'm too disappointed in how rote and boring the end of the plot is. Just ding it and we'll carry on.
Hey.
The girl with the Callaway 5-iron.
There's a gun. There's a gun on the television.
And even though Martin had both of us dead to rights, the only people that know about his crimes, he ran off like a little biatch instead of using that gun on us.
What happened when you were 12?
I tried to kill my father. Burned him alive.
See, that's a much more interesting story that we could have seen. Instead, you had to overblow this first entry and scare everyone off from doing the other two movies in the trilogy, forcing us to sit through a fucking half-baked Spiderweb pseudo-sequel in 7 years.
She's still playing solitaire? And she hasn't called anyone.
Sure, she's doing something, but that's not really solitaire. Could be one of those weird-ass Spider or East Haven or Golf or Josephine or Klondike knockoffs. But that is not real solitaire.
Before he died, your brother hung me from a hook. Harriet.
This works.
So how did you escape?
Anita.
Cool. By my count, we're wrapping up the 18th storyline, so that's good progress. Only 23 more to go.
In the court of public
The court
opinion.
of public opinion now celebrates people's bad behavior.
Whoa, get your 2016 politics out of my 2011 neo-punk hacker thriller.
What happened with Wennerstrom? How did he get you?
Why is Lisbeth asking this now? Or at all? She wrote a fucking book on this guy. Literally.
I have access to his computer, and his accountants, and his lawyers.
And how do you have that?
Well, I could have gotten it from a source inside the company.
Yeah, but this will definitely put him back in court. Charges will be filed, and Meikle will be a very unreliable witness when any of this is found out to be bullshit. I mean, isn't Meikle doing the exact thing that got him in trouble the first time? But this time, it's gonna work out because Lisbeth?
Has he left the country?
Man, this Wennerstrom subplot takes up a lot of the end of this movie, especially for previously having been yada-yada'd for the vast majority of it. Jesus, this movie has more endings than Return of the King.
How many of these would you like to convert for deposit?
All 50 into 5 accounts.
Wait, so Lisbeth took $50,000 of Meikle's money, then stole all of Wennerstrom's money, went to a couple of Gringotts branches, moved some shit around, ended up making billions, does something with it, then has him killed? Do I have that tiny little bow on this unnecessary plot point right? Yeah, what the is up with that though? I know Meikle's all free lovey and all that, but couldn't he at least have given Lisbeth a heads up on what was going on with him and Erica? And how would Gregor even feel about this, considering his wife is f***ing a guy that's f***ing another girl who's f***ing a lot of random people? F***ing Gregor.
Ye more scared digging or mort.
What happens if the engine stops? We all freeze and die.
This is Harriet.
Harriet! Hard-hearted harbinger of haggis.
I feel so badly that I've taken Mikhail away from you at the worst possible time.
Badly is an adverb, so to say you feel badly would be saying that the mechanism which allows you to feel is broken.
You were the all-singing, all-dancing crap of the world.
You're the dread pirate Roberts, admit it.
With pride. I was doing advanced mathematics when I was 18, and it still took me over 20 years to do something worthy of a Fields Medal.
There's more to life than a f***ing Fields Medal.
It's not a snap. It's a wide-angle fiber optics lens.
You're crazy, man.
The price is wrong, bitch.